Let's testify tonight. Oh God, you've done so much for me. I'm grateful and overwhelmed here at your feet. And I could stay here forever, Lord. But you call me to something more. And I hear you say that you have a plan to use every broken woman and man to display just how good you are. We are your living pieces of art. What good does it do to hide away when all of my scars are a picture of grace? All right. So I will testify of the power of God. I will tell the word of the hope I have found. For my body was broken, my heart was made whole, and that's too good to keep to myself. So I will testify of the power of God. Oh, do you believe it? Has he done it for anyone else? I said, has he done it for anyone else? Because the God that I serve, he's always at work. Has he done it for anyone else? So come on and testify of the power of God. Come on and tell the world of the hope we have found. For our body was broken, our hearts were made whole, and that's too good to keep to yourself. Come on and testify of the power of God. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. I'm gonna testify. Somebody testify your voice. This is my. So I'm gonna testify. Somebody testify. Come on, take it up. Jesus, my champion, the victor of grace, the only one worthy of all of my praise. Yeah. So come on and testify. Oh, somebody lift him high. Come on, testify the power of God. I will tell the world of the hope I have found. Oh, for my body was broken, my heart was made whole, and that's too good to keep to myself. So I will testify of the power of God. Sing it. Oh, my body was broken, my heart was made whole, and that's too good to keep to myself. So I will testify of the power of God. Oh, let's do that right now, Murfreesboro.
And good afternoon or early evening. I'm sorry I'm a little late. I was out driving some Uber, just got stuck in a little bit of traffic on the way home. But it is good as always to see you. I am sorry about last week. You know, obviously it was a little beyond my control, but I need to continue to apologize for it because, you know, you guys were expecting me to be here and clearly I wasn't. So, yeah, we can hope that doesn't happen again. That was a rough one. All right, so So Bradley's first in the house. Good to see him. Mercer is here, putting in some Star Trek quotes. A little on the random side, but thank you, Mercer. Thomas says, "Who let me out of the asylum?" Well, fortunately for me, it was I happen to have a very good neurologist named Dana Carter, and yeah, she's pretty much probably the main reason I'm here. I do have a new prescription, but it's just to treat the vertigo a little bit, and hopefully it works. The after effects of the event are definitely rough, but manageable. And it's one of those things. So now I just get to fight my way back to being a little bit stronger financially, and we'll be okay. Then I can get to work on. Oh man, I got a bunch of videos that are like half done, and I apologize for that. I need to figure out. I need to schedule some time every day to work on videos so that I don't forget, because I'm always out spending so much time driving. And I'm never going to be able to stop driving if I can't grow the YouTube stuff, and I'm never going to grow the YouTube stuff if I don't produce any content. So pray for me, guys. I got a lot on my plate right now. Did you win the contest? Yes, I did. I went back. I came up only 2 drives short of getting the bonus. So after I took a nap, and actually, thanks to my lovely wife, she kind of kicked me out of bed at like 8 o'clock at night and said, "Look, you need to go now." And so I went and drove just a couple of people, and then I immediately came back. So that was, yeah. Bradley asked if I'm feeling better. Hope I am. I'm definitely better than I was when the event actually happened, which was a little better than a week ago. I will tell you, I feel really sorry for everybody in my family. I can't even tell you how bad I feel about that, because they all got to see me in a way that no one wants to be seen. Completely weak, completely vulnerable, and completely out of it. So thanks to them, I'm still here, and thanks to them, I managed to get to the hospital and everything. Although honestly, yeah, I said this before, going to the hospital, it was definitely helpful, but at least in the future we kind of know what it is, so probably won't be necessary even if it happens again. Optimus Prime is a savior. Well, if you happen to be a robot, yes. Ariel says, "Why? What happened last week? Did you go out on your Sodium Spectre outfit to stop the injustice of the world?" Not exactly, Ariel. So I know you weren't here yesterday when I talked about it, but the long and short of it is that I started developing insanely bad neurological symptoms the week before. And they were affecting me a little bit at the beginning of the week, but by the end of the week, on Friday, they completely made me non-functional. I was shaking so bad you'd think I had advanced Parkinson's disease. That's not an exaggeration. I mean, I actually have family members that have advanced Parkinson's, and my shaking was worse than that. I had such extreme vertigo that I couldn't take 2 steps without falling down. I was nauseous, actually threw up a few times. I was incoherent, babbling, sounded like a complete drunk with every word that I said. Basically, yeah, I was a complete wreck. And so, and I also a few times lost time, where I'd be doing something and all of a sudden it's like later, and I'm like, what the heck happened? So all this turned out to be what's called a relapse, or more commonly referred to as a flare-up of my MS. And so it's basically like all my MS symptoms just dialed up to 11, and that's what caused the problem. And this kind of thing, typically with certain forms of MS, if this is what they basically believe it is, I can expect this to probably happen every 6 to 18 months. I know it's a wide time frame, but that's basically how the statistics roll. I hope that's not the case, but if it is, your will be done, God. Mike Richards, best thing to come out of Columbus, Ohio since Columbus. Says, to quote my father, when a man's sick, he don't feel good. That is very true. And I think, maybe on my tombstone I'll have, hey, I told you I was sick. All right. And it definitely isn't rheumatic syndrome. Yes, it definitely isn't. Close to that, 12K. Not sure what you mean. What event? Well, I just kind of explained it, Mercer. So I had a flare up of my symptoms of MS, and I was in the hospital for 4 days. Let's see. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Yeah, 4 days. Trustin's in the house. Good to see you, buddy. Didn't have a stroke. No, actually, and funny you should ask if I had a stroke, because that is something they were concerned about. So they did an MRI to make sure that I did not have a stroke, in fact. It was one of those deals where you thought you were making... Yes, I thought I was making perfect sense, but everybody else thought I was crazy. But everybody else was right. Let's see. Did you also realize the words coming out were weird? I did after a little while. I didn't at first. And I was doing really... Because, like, for example, the vertigo was really the worst symptom at first. And so while my son is trying to pick me up so that they can get me to the emergency room, I start saying, but it's not vertigo, it's high anxiety. Oh, I love that movie, High Anxiety. And then I start singing the song. If you've never seen High Anxiety, there's a wonderful lounge song performed by Mel Brooks, where I'm like, high anxiety. And I'm just, driving my wife insane. And the funny thing is, we get back in the hospital, first thing we do is watch High Anxiety. Glad you're doing better. Thoughts and prayers. Thank you so much, Ariel. 12,000, yeah, well, 12,000 subscribers is actually, I'm kind of holding on, because my peak was about 15,000 subscribers, and I've slowly been going down for the last couple of years, but that's because I switched from just doing nerdy content to doing religious content, and that offends a lot of people, which I'm not angry about. That's just a fact. Stanley says, and I hate to think about it, what would happen if you did start having an event while driving? Well, it's not like a seizure, Stan. Like if you're having a seizure, like you're driving along, all of a sudden a seizure hits you, and bam, you're out, you're done, right? This is a MS event, which is my first time, so I didn't know any of this until 2 weeks ago. But an MS event you can basically feel coming for several days. And so, like I was probably having vertigo symptoms for over a week by the time I was incapacitated. And so, it's not something that would just hit you while you're driving. At least you didn't start, well, that would have been good. Because it's springtime for Hitler and Germany. I can't sing. Speaking of Mel Brooks, seeing the Spaceballs 2 teaser, I did. Unfortunately, it's not being directed by Mel Brooks, but, and unfortunately, it's Spaceballs. I'd rather see a High Anxiety 2 than Spaceballs 2, but hey, hopefully it'll be funnier than the first one. We'll just say that much. And stop just dumping on every movie. Yeah. That is true. I was very aggressively mean for a while, and that's what got me the most subscribers, but I'm not going to do that anymore. I do have some plan. I'm going to be snarky because I always will be, but I'm not going to be as mean as I was, like all the F you Ryan Johnson stuff. I know some people love that stuff, and I grant you that a lot of it is funny, but at the same time, I go too far with it. Ryan Johnson made a horrible movie, but Ryan Johnson, I don't know him personally, so I don't know that he's a horrible person. Saying F you, F you, F you, F you over in this review, sits wrong with me. That's why I made a vow that I'm not going to be like that anymore. But I will still be absolutely snarky. So if Darren Wagner shows up, I'm still going to give snarky comments to him because he's Darren Wagner. You sing a lot better than you think you do. You have a wonderful voice. Well, thank you, Bradley. But I used to be able to sing. My wife would probably be laughing if she's watching right now. But I used to actually be able to sing very well. I was into theater for a long time. I played El Gallo in a production of The Fantastics at a college in Northern California. And the funny thing is, if you've ever worked in community level theater, it's very hard to get a completely good cast. And in the Fantastics, the guy that played there's the characters are El Gallo, who is like the only I think named character really, because then there's a boy, a girl, two fathers, and a wall, and that's pretty much all the characters. And the boy and girl fall in love in the story. El Gallo is kind of he is the narrator of the story, and he also gets involved from time to time. There's even a big old sword fight in the middle of the play. It's a great play, The Fantastics. And at the time that I did it, it was still running on Broadway, and it was the longest running play in history at that point. It probably isn't anymore, but it was back then. And the play opens with an empty, the curtains open. There's nothing on stage. El Gallo, me, walks out. He's wearing black head to toe. He dresses a lot like Zorro, just no mask. In fact, I would say he dresses exactly like Zorro with no mask because he has a cape, he has the fluffy arm shirt, he has, the boots and the whole nine. And so he steps out onto the stage in silence, and if you've never done theater, it's an eerie feeling because you walk out, there's a spotlight on you, and there's like 500 people in an auditorium all staring at you, and you can feel their eyeballs. Because it's one thing to be a member of a chorus or in a band or whatever, but if you're in a play and you're the only person on stage, which means that every single person out in that audience, unless they're under the age of 3 or something, is focused on you. And that is a very interesting feeling. And then after a few seconds, a piano starts. And after a few seconds of that, El Gallo begins to sing. And he sings a classic song that, classic to me. Okay, so those of you in the here, like Mike Richards and others that are in my generation, you would recognize the song. It's called September. And in fact, actually, you might remember it because they used it in which Iron Man? The one where he had the holographic barf thing. Oh no, that was Spider Man, wasn't it? Was it? No, that was Iron Man. Or no, it was yeah, it was Spider Man. Was it Spider Man or was it Iron Man? I think anyway, the one where he shows off barf and you. Oh no, it was Winter Soldier. Gosh, I'm getting my Marvel movies all mixed up. But where he shows off barf and you see, his mom and dad and him in the past on the night before his parents died. And the song that's playing is the song that El Gallo sings. And it goes, try to remember the kind of September when life was slow and oh so mellow. And it goes on. And and so you Okay, well, it says I'm live, so let's see. But also, I'm sure nobody's watching. I don't know. As I wait for. Let me know if you guys can see me. Give me something in the chat, because I can't tell if there's anything new in the chat. There we go, Stan's there. Okay, yeah, I see. Wow, not everybody left. I'm shocked. So had a had a slight weapons malfunction, but everything's fine here. Yeah, everything's. How are you? No, we had a very brief, but unfortunately fatal, as far as the computer is concerned, power outage. And actually, yeah. So it's nothing major to worry about. Nothing, that. Yeah, it's just stupid power. So yeah, so I was telling you about maybe that's God saying stop singing on your live streams because now you're going to lose what little subscribers you had. But yeah, but imagine for a second that you're up on stage and there's 500 people and they're all staring right at you, and and then you got to go out and sing that song. A song that at the time, back in the 80s, a song that almost everybody knew, right? So it's not like you're going out and singing some song that's just some Broadway song that you've never heard before. It's actually, it was fairly common, and still is really, that a song from a play may chart and do very well because better writing. And September is one of those songs, or Try to Remember, whatever it's called. But yeah, I had to get out there and sing it. And there are other incredibly good songs in that play. And El Gallo is the central focal character of the play. Nerve wracking doesn't even begin to cover it, but it's what got me. I really wish I had the gumption to have pursued a career in theater, because it's a high like nothing else when you finish a play like that and you get a standing O. It's just absolutely mind-bogglingly cool, and then you wait and wait nervously until the newspapers do some kind of review, and I don't know. I might still have the clipping around here somewhere, but there is a newspaper clipping that actually, it's kind of funny because it's my favorite bad review, because the review of the play was not so great. It said that the title, the headline, because it's a newspaper, there's a literal headline. The headline read, "Fantastics isn't so fantastic." That's not a good sign. And so then when you start reading the actual body of the review, now at the time, I wasn't a big fan of my last name. So I just used my first name and middle name instead of my last name in the billing. So I went by Michael James at the time. And the review starts out with Michael James starts out with a moving performance of the classic song "Try to Remember," and it talked about how great I was in the first opening paragraph, and then it goes on. Unfortunately, as the play unfolds, the promise of a wonderful show is not fulfilled, and it goes on about how the guy that plays the boy is really, really horrible, and he was not good. But the but the fact that a newspaper report, a legitimate theater critic from San Francisco, I could even say, called my performance of a song moving, and my overall performance was wonderful. So that, even though the review overall hated the play, I saved that newspaper clipping. I don't know where it is, but it's somewhere in this house. Because, oh my gosh, an actual critic liked me, even though they hated what I was in. So circle back around to my attitude about things like The Last Jedi, right? Or let me take you actually one step further. Let's look at characters that are hated, like Rose Tico. Rose Tico was so hated by the fans. I remember, I think it was Mahler. I could be wrong. If you guys know in the chat, you can tell me. But I think it was Mahler who, during his several hour long review of The Last Jedi, would constantly refer to Rose Tico as the fat Asian chick. And, you know, I realized after a while that I was dangerously close to becoming that. That's one of the reasons, like, people say, "Oh, I love Mahler," and it's like, great, you know, that's awesome, you can enjoy it, but at the same time, that's cruel, you know. And I'm sorry, I know that a lot of people give Kelly Marie Tran a lot of flack because she left social media saying that she was bullied away because of toxic fans or whatever, and of course, the so-called fandom menace rushed in to defend all the attacks against her, to say that there are no toxic fans. This was just a toxic movie, and she's a horrible person for having been in it and participated in it, and that she's exaggerating all these. Look, I will tell you, no joke here. I was on Nerd Rock. I used to be a regular on several of the larger live stream shows. Like I was on Midnight's Edge, and I was on Friday Night Tights for a while. And when I was on Friday Night Tights, I had the gall to defend a position of something similar to what we're talking about. That you shouldn't attack the person, you should only attack the product. And of course, the other people on the panel were laughing. I think Babyface was there, and of course, Nerdrotic was there, and a couple others. What's his name? Geeks and Gamers. What's his name from Geeks and Gamers was there. And they were laughing at me and telling me that I was just a soy boy or whatever. But they were kidding around, right? We were just having fun. However, for a little while over on Twitter, it was still called Twitter back then, not only was I getting all sorts of incredibly foul comments about how dare I basically soil the integrity of Friday Night Tights by even being there, but I did literally get people throwing death threats. Now, did I take them seriously? Not really. Did I report every single one of them to the FBI? Yes, I did, because I don't play with that. However, you know, as far as I know, nothing ever became of any of it. But I realized at that point that no, there is a toxic element of the fan base. And Kelly Marie Tran, who is a beautiful woman, by the way, and like I love to point out, if you see her in a form-fitting dress, you're like, holy crap, that's the frumpy girl from Last Jedi. And yes, the costume that she wore in Last Jedi did not accentuate her beauty. But at the same time, it didn't really need to for the role she was playing. However, the role she was playing also sucked, and her part in the movie was particularly egregious. Now, how do you deal with that as a critic? And to me, the answer is simple. You say that Rose Tico was a horribly written character. Rose Tico should not have been in the movie. There's no reason to include Rose Tico in the Star Wars franchise. You do not have to say one word about the personal appearance, beliefs, or anything else about Kelly Marie Tran to give a proper critique of Rose Tico. Because Rose Tico, newsflash, and Kelly Marie Tran, you know, are not the same. One is a fictitious character, and the other one is a beautiful Asian woman who got bullied for playing that fictitious character. So I know there's a long old diatribe about all this, but as far as the singing and how we treat people and why I've changed my channel a lot, but I can't be like that anymore. I can't be like Mahler or like Gary Nerdrotic or like the guys over Geese and Gamers or Midnight's Edge. I can't just be an a-hole all the time. And it's like, look at, critical drinker is like the new flavor of the month when it comes to this kind of stuff. Everybody loves critical drinker these days, and it's the same old story. It's just packaged differently. Back in the old days of critical drinker, I actually really liked his presentation style because he basically pretended to be a drunk idiot who was trying to talk about movies. And it was funny. It was genuinely funny. Now he just sits there and hates on stuff most of the time. Yes, every once in a while he throws a bone at Wicked for some reason, which I can't believe that he praises a movie like Wicked, but that's a whole other ball of wax. But then like he's already decided, along with the rest of the whatever fandom menace people are calling themselves these days, he's already decided that Fantastic Four is the worst movie ever made. Right? He's put out a half a dozen videos about how horrible the Fantastic Four is going to be, even though he and nobody else from the Phantom Menace or whatever you want to call them have seen it. And that really drives me nuts because if Fantastic, you guys, look, let me tell you guys something. You can't see it right now, but in the office downstairs that I may or may not move back to because it's getting harder to get up the stairs. But in the office downstairs, I have multiple boxes of comic books that are just Fantastic Four. Because I have every single issue of Fantastic Four from, I believe, number 50 all the way up through the end of the run before they rebooted it. And I actually have issue 1 of the reboot that they did just a couple of years ago. And so that is about 600 plus comics. That's just Fantastic Four, dating back to the late 1960s. And to put it mildly, I'm a fan of the Fantastic Four. If they do the Fantastic Four dirty in this movie, if all the crap that they're saying is true, and the movie is just this woke, messy, stupid piece of crap, I can guarantee you that I will be the loudest voice about it. Right? Not because I'm so anti-woke, not because I have a political agenda, but because I love the Fantastic Four and I don't want to see them done dirty. And so I truly hope that the Fantastic Four movie is great. The trailers look cool. And I try to ignore all the crap that people on the internet are throwing at it because they want to get clicks. And I'm sorry, it makes me absolutely sick to my stomach that people like Gary and whatever Critical Drinker's real name is and all these guys have made individually tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars and collectively millions of dollars just by throwing hate at various works of art and most of the time not even well thought out good, rational criticism. Rather, they just throw out hate like some rabid dogs in heat. And it just makes me sick. Wow, that was quite the diatribe, huh? Why don't we get into the book of Exodus, because that's why we're all here. And I apologize for my tirade, guys, but sometimes I got to get that crap off my chest. All right, so... and we, because of course all my tabs are gone from the power outage. So Exodus, and I believe I said we're in chapter, yes, that's right, 36, the tabernacle. Let's switch screens. All right, and hey, Alex, well, you missed the power going out, and then you guys watching, I guess, a blank screen, I don't know, for like 10 minutes. And then you also missed me go on a massive tirade for like 30 minutes about throwing hate where it's undeserved. But good to see you, Alex. All right. So, Bezalel, oh man, I hate these names. Oh, Oilhab, and every skilled person to whom the Lord has given skill and ability to know how to carry out all the work of constructing the sanctuary are to do the work just as the Lord has commanded. And again, I know we talked about this last time, but it's been a while, so let me just reiterate. We are looking at early iterations of the gifts of the Holy Spirit. The difference is that nowadays the gifts of the Holy Spirit are more freely given based on our circumstances and prayers and all that. Whereas back then, basically, they weren't a regular thing. God specifically did it at a couple of points, and this is one of those points. He needs people to have certain skills so he can give them those skills. Then Moses summoned Bezalel and Oilhab and every skilled person to whom the Lord has given the ability to is willing to come and do the work. They received from Moses all the offerings the Israelites had brought to carry out the work of constructing the sanctuary. And the people continued to bring free will offerings morning after morning. So the skilled workers who were doing all the work on the sanctuary left what they were doing and said to Moses, "The people are bringing more than enough for doing the work commanded to be done." So remember, a free will, I know we talked about this before, but the free will offering is basically, it's not a requirement like a tithe is. You don't have to make this particular offering. However, this is what we need, guys, and people will just throw it in. This is where a lot of churches, if you've ever been to a church, like, for example, New Vision Church here in Murfreesboro. I'm not dissing on them. This is just a little story about what happened one time. We were attending New Vision for a period of time, and it's a big old Baptist church. And in a similar situation as the experience, the church I go to, the experience it's going through now, New Vision was having a problem with their parking lot. It was too small to accommodate all the cars that were trying to park there for services. So someone came up with an idea on how to improve the parking lot. They would have to, they'd add some more pavement to it. They could, restripe it, rearrange things a little bit, and they'd get a bunch more spaces out of the parking lot. But it would cost the church about $100,000 to actually do this project. So they began to do special offerings during the services where the pastor would constantly remind people that, hey, we need this parking lot, so don't forget to take the little envelope and put parking lot fund and throw some extra money in there. That was considered a free will offering. That was not considered your tithes. And so you're still expected to tithe and do this parking lot thing. And I will be completely honest with you. Is that sinful? Is it wrong? Is it immoral? I would say no. But it still sits wrong with me. And one of the reasons that I found the Experience Community Church so attractive is if your church is spending millions upon millions of dollars on nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean, look, New Vision is a beautiful church. Let me see if I can find a picture of it. And I mean, it truly is an absolutely gorgeous facility. Oh, here's a nice aerial view of it, I think. Well, it might, yeah. Let's see, open image, a new tab. Maybe this one. Okay. And I always forget how this works. So let me try this. There we go. I don't know if you can see that, but let's see. Is it control? Yeah, there we go. So you zoom in a little bit. So you can, this compound, and by the way, this isn't even all of it. They've added on like 3 additional buildings to it since this picture was taken. The large building in this, with the white roof, that's the main sanctuary. And then the kind of snaky building opposite that, there's a foyer where you can see a drive-through. So you have that's where people go in before church. You drop off guests in the little drive-through, and then you come around and park. And if you walk down the building behind the main sanctuary is mostly classrooms. There's another sanctuary back there for smaller services, all sorts of stuff. And they added two additional buildings larger than anything you see on this screen except for the sanctuary itself just recently. It's a huge facility, right? And it's nice, it's wonderful, it's in fact, here's a even better picture of it. This is a model of what it was, before it was actually created. But you can see, so the entrance is here, and I don't know if you can see, yeah, you can see my mouse pointer. The entrance is right here. The entrance that you saw in that little drive-through is behind the sanctuary. So there's two entrances for people to go in, and but all the other buildings are pretty much the same. The new buildings, from this perspective, would be where the parking lot is on the right-hand side of your screen. So it's a big, beautiful, huge church, all that. So I can't believe I just said big, beautiful, and nobody just thought about the whole Trump bill, but no. Let's see. So if we then, if we contrast that with something like the experience, right? I'm trying to see if I can find a aerial shot of the Experience Community Church where I attend, and I don't really see one. That's kind of funny. I wonder if I go to, let's go to, and I'm going to Google Maps, see if I can find it there. Okay, Experience Me Murfreesboro. All right, so we'll try to do it this way. Hopefully, yeah, you can see that. All right, so so the Experience Community is right here, and you can see. Well, there we go. So got to wait for the aerial view to kind of get a little clearer. Let's get rid of that. All right. So you can see it's like one big building, right? And this is the only building we own. We do not own any of this. The stuff behind it is belongs to other people. But there's one big rectangular building, and the entire building is simply a old warehouse. And so the warehouse, I don't know what exactly they did, but we converted from this perspective, the lower portion of this area is mostly the sanctuary. And then the classrooms and stuff are in the upper part. And we've just kind of remodeled the inside of this warehouse as much as we possibly can. We don't have a lot of extra room. Our parking lot is a shambles. In fact, people park as far as 6, 7, 8 blocks away at other parking lots for our services. And we have little shuttle buses that bring them into church. But we spent $5 million, that's $5 million on the church building itself. And that's it. That's how much it cost us to buy this existing warehouse. And over the years, we probably spent another couple of million remodeling and refurnishing it. So we'll say like 6, 7 million for the church. Whereas New Vision, which is a comparable sized church, I wonder if I can get to where. All right, so there's medical center. Because New Vision is right off of Thompson Road, I know. So there's Northfield. Where is Thompson Road? Oh man, I can't. Oh, there it is. Okay, so if you see the Experience Community Church, and then if we come over here, here's New Vision, and if we zoom in, you can see there's their complex right there. And this image looks like it's a little old because it does not include any of the new stuff that's been built. But this compound that New Vision has probably costs in the order of $50 to $100 million. And my whole point there is that, look, is it a sin to ask for more money to remodel the parking lot? No. But if you can afford a building that costs $100 million, why are you trying to raise $100,000 for a parking lot? Now, our church does not do special offerings, period. Instead, if we don't have the money for it, we simply can't afford it. That's our philosophy on it. However, do I think that that's a sin issue? I do not at all. But to me, it's a heart issue because I see, when I look at the experience, the number one priority of the experience is to help the community. The number one priority at New Vision seems to be making an incredibly beautiful house of worship. And making a beautiful house of worship is a good thing, but I think the community is more important. So the moral of this story is don't let the good, destroy the best, I guess. All right, so where were we? Then Moses gave an order, and they sent this word throughout the camp. No man or woman is to make anything else as an offering for the sanctuary. And so the people were restrained from bringing more because what they already had was more than enough to do all the work. So basically, the church doesn't need to collect more than it needs if it's collecting for a specific project. All those who were skilled among the workers made the tabernacle with the 10 curtains, finely twisted linen, blue, purple, and scarlet yarn. Remember, we talked about all that, the details of the tabernacle. With cherubim woven by expert hands, all the curtains were the same size, 28 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. They were joined 5 of the curtains together, and they did the same with the other 5. Then they made the loops of blue material along the edge of the curtains, and once set, and the same was done with the end curtain on the other set. They also made 50 loops on one curtain and 50 loops on the end curtain on the other set with loops opposite each other. Then they made 50 gold clasps and used them to fasten the 2 sets of curtains together so that the tabernacle was a unit. Don't get me wrong. It's educational stuff here to kind of pay attention to how the tabernacle is put together. But the problem is 90% of the words I just read were spoken twice or so earlier when God was describing to Moses what they were going to make. So I wish that things like this, sorry not to pick on you, Moses, Mo, whatever you go by. But, when you wrote Exodus, couldn't you have just said, and they built it as God instructed, instead of every detail every time we read it? I'm just saying. They made curtains of goat hair. Right? They keep using goat. I guess it's a thing back then, but man. And Angora goats are actually incredibly soft. But I've never actually seen something made of goat hair that I can think of. They made curtains of goat hair for the tent over the tabernacle, 11 altogether. All 11 curtains were the same size, 30 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. They joined 5 of the curtains into one set and the other 6 into another set. Then they made 50 loops along the edge of the end curtain in one set and also along the edge of the end curtain in the other set. They made 50 bronze clasps to fasten the tent together as a unit. Then they made for the tent a covering of ram skins dyed red, over that a covering of the other durable leather. They made upright frames of acacia wood for the tabernacle. Each frame was 10 cubits long and 1.5 cubits wide, with 2 projections, that's projections, not projectors, set parallel to each other. They made all the frames of the tabernacle in this way. They made 25 frames for the south side of the tabernacle and 40 silver bases to go under them. 2 bases for each frame, 1 under each projection. So these frames are like holding, it's basically like the world's first, framed tent system at least at this kind of scale. Remember, they're basically building a giant tent. All right. And two frames were made for the corners of the tabernacle at the far end. At the two corners, the frames were double, and from the bottom all the way up to the top were fitted into a single ring. Both were made alike, so there were 8 frames and 16 silver bases, 2 under each frame. They also made crossbars of acacia wood, 5 for the frames on one side of the tabernacle, 5 for the other side, and 5 for the frames on the west at the far end of the tabernacle. They made the center crossbar so that it extended from the end at the middle of the frames. They overlaid the frames with gold and made gold rings to hold the crossbars. They also overlaid the crossbars with gold. They made the curtain of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and finely twisted linen with cherubim woven in by a skilled worker. They made 4 posts of acacia wood for it and overlaid them with gold. They made gold hooks for them and cast their 4 silver bases. For their entrance to the tent, they made a curtain of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and finely twisted linen, the work of an embroiderer. As they made 5 posts with hooks on them, they overlaid the troops of the posts and their bands with gold and made their 5 bases of bronze. So there we go. That's a big old mouthful to just say, yeah, they made the tabernacle pretty much as God told Moses. Yeah. It's important information. I'm not saying, oh, we should ignore these parts of the Bible. It's just I think he's Mo. Mo, your writing style, a little verbose, buddy. Anyway, looking forward to meeting Mo, but hopefully not too soon. Well, all right, so that's it for chapter 36. So to the chat we will go. And by the way, to answer your question real quick, Stan, yes, it was meant to be portable, which we'll get into in future chapters. But wherever the Israelites went, they brought the tabernacle and the Holy of Holies and stuff with them until it was put in its final position on the Temple Mount. And Trustin says, you're a Sparky, I never noticed, but he actually meant snarky. Yeah, me, snarky, never happened. Captain Phantom Nerd in the house, good to see you, as is Miss Moneypenny, good to see you as well. Been a long time. Let's see, did he cut out? Yes, I did. Some technical difficulties. Yeah, that's obviously why I'm gone. Having technical, hello Penny, hello Captain, yeah, just seeing the title card. Due to technical difficulty beyond our control, the salty trekker will continue. Yes, man, I am so sorry about that. I wonder how salty is now. Let me see. When did they say? I'm looking for the first. Okay, so Stanley asked if I cut out 41 minutes ago, and then. Okay, and it came back 33 minutes ago. So I was off, for about 10 minutes. Sorry about that, guys. I wonder how salty is now. I was running around panicking. Miss Moneypenny says, oops. Captain Phantom Nerd agrees. I can't finish the story. I can finish the story. When Salty hit the high note in September, his pants fell down. A riot ensued. Wow. Wow. Copyright strike for singing, yes. And that's how he moved to Tennessee. Oh, because of the riots? Okay. And that's me coming in. And Stan, I think it's 5x5, not 4x4, but I don't know. Yes, I'm back. 5x5 says Captain Fan Nerd. All good now. He's back. Blah, 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 blah. Looking for... Okay, should have gone with just Ford said... you were Harrison's younger brother. Are you talking about we had a weapons malfunction problem? San Francisco guy was probably smoking something. You know what, Thomas? You're probably right, but I was a kid. I was, how old was I when I did the Fantastics? It was just before I met Bridget, so I was probably 19. So, yeah. Well, it was a terrible part. Talking about Rose Tico, it was a terrible part. But the problem is that, it ruined that young woman And I, well, I did not. I don't think I was part of the Bash Rose Brigade. I did not like the Canto Bite stuff. I absolutely despised the Canto Bite stuff. But well, I should say I not the Bash Rose craze, but I would say I wasn't part of the Bash Kelly Marie Tran thing. I still feel partially responsible for what happened because I was encouraging that kind of behavior, and it was messed up. It really was. And yes, I'm a small channel. I'm not, these guys have hundreds of thousands or even millions of followers. But at the same time, somebody's got to be willing to speak the truth. And the truth is that Kelly Marie Tran was done dirty by the fans like Nerdrotic. And I'm sorry to say that because I love Gary, but it's true. Or at least the people that subscribe to Nerdrotic. The people that I know for a fact are perfectly okay throwing death threats around like they were candy. They dressed her frumpy. They absolutely did, and they should. I don't understand what the point there was. Like I said, Rose isn't supposed to be a sexy character, but at the same time, she's, give her a costume that at least, is flattering to her figure, as opposed to, because the problem is that Rose, and- oh, and thank you so much. Says, multi-gunman won't
Multi-gunman won't let me say.
super cots. Multi gunman, why won't you let Alex send large super chats? I'll get to it in a minute, but that's mean. Don't be doing that because Alex absolutely has the right to send me really, really big super chats. In fact, he should be sending me huge, super big, beautiful super chats. But yeah, I was going to say that Rose, if you look at Kelly Marie Tran as she's got an hourglass figure, meaning that she's voluptuous, she's large on top, skinny in the middle, large on the bottom. That's an hourglass shape, right? And if a person with a large bust wears something that is loose fitting, it tends to make them look fat because it drapes down over the breasts and then straight down instead of curving back in with the contours of their body. So get the jacket fitted, and she would have looked 100 times better. There's Multi-Gunman. Good to see you, buddy. Hope you are doing well. How's it going? I am still recovering from what happened now about a week and a half ago, but I'm better than I was, and it may take a while to recover completely because it almost feels like I had a stroke. It was so intense. I thought they said she just didn't have a good part or flattering costumes. Well, like I said, people like Mahler was out there calling her the fat Asian chick, and that's just I get it. He's making a joke out of it, right? Because it was kind of his style because, and that's when fat Asian chick went to black stormtrooper and they went and did, or I don't know if he said, but, he was just basically, and Critical Drinker does this all the time where he'll say strong, empowered woman number one, strong, empowered woman number two, where he's basically just throwing out these names instead of calling them by who they are to make a joke out of it. But when that is such a mean-spirited, like strong, empowered woman number one from Critical Drinker, that doesn't bother me, really, because he is criticizing the character, not the actor. But when you say fat Asian chick, that's a direct reference to the actress's size and ethnicity, and that's messed up. You see what I'm saying? That's the difference to me. Jeremy, Ryan, I'm not sure. Oh, yeah, Jeremy. It was Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers that I used to hang out with quite a bit. Penny, she makes the rounds. Yes, Penny does make the rounds. She's everywhere. Daniel, good to see you. Says, I don't think it was Mahler. Maybe Doggy Bites. I've never even listened to Doggy Bites. I thought for sure it was Mahler, but I could be wrong. But anyway, but the thing is, he was definitely not alone with this kind of rhetoric about the character of Rose Tico. And I get it. Rose Tico is a horrible character. There's nothing about the character that I liked. But I really think that the way that the fans reacted to Kelly Marie Tran was horrible. William Graves, not sure who you are, but says Moses, no power, God has power. Simple. Okay, not sure what your point is. That's not like in chapter 36. It's not Moses. Never claims to have all the power or anything. Moses is just the person who is nominated by God to lead the Israelites at this point in time. And his brother Aaron is made high priest, and they become the initial government of Israel. Stanley says, of course, Critical Drinker just ripped off his stick from Red Letter Media. He kind of did. Like Red Letter Media, don't get me wrong. You're right in that, okay, his character is an off-kilter, drunk character and all that. But I think they're different enough to where they can both exist, and I wouldn't say, oh, well, he's a ripoff. Because Critical Drinker is just a drunk. But Red Letter Media, or at least the Mr. Plinkett stuff, the old school Mr. Plinkett stuff, before Red Letter Media got boring. But the old Mr. Plinkett stuff was, Mr. Plinkett is a serial killer doing reviews. And not a nice serial killer like Dexter, And Alex with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. Just turned 40. Congratulations, Alex. You're 2 years away from being old. In the half of my life, I've been offended by people of all ages, ethnicities, genders, and nationalities. I want to be able to energize or to criticize writers without being I can't read that political. Yeah, it's difficult though, and I get that because there are politics inserted into movies like The Last Jedi. That's why I did a video following my big old long review of it called The Politics of The Last Jedi. And movies like that are infuriating because they put into the movie all this political crap, right? And so whether you want to call it wokeism, feminism, leftist thinking, whatever you want to call it, it's clearly there. And it's hard to do a review of the movie without getting political, but I dare say I did it. If you haven't seen my 20-odd part review of The Last Jedi, I purposefully did not comment on the politics of the movie. It is absolutely possible. The problem is that the politics get infuriating, and so what happens is people like Gary over at Nerdrotic or whoever, if you're doing a review, and I'm not saying they're bad for this, this is just natural reaction. You see these horrible politics thrown into a franchise that you love, like Star Wars, Star Trek, whatever it may be. And you start railing on the politics, right? Which is exactly what they want. Right? When you start railing on, oh my gosh, how dare they make this purple-haired freak in charge of the rebel fleet, even though it was the resistance for whatever reason. And, who the heck is she? And what's this all about? And why, why, how dare they make all the men bad and all the women good? And how dare they put a Mary Sue into, how dare they do all this crap, right? But as soon as you do that, you've lost. In other words, if you critique the political aspects of the film, it may be a legitimate critique, but you've already lost. So that's why I set out to make my review of The Last Jedi as politically free as possible. And so, yes, I talked about every scene in the movie, but I did not get, all angry about girl power or any of that. I just went through the story elements, the visual elements, all that stuff, and talked about it without talking about politics at all. And it is possible, but it is difficult. I feel you there. And there's 70-minute Phantom Menace breakdown. You know what? I would love to do another Phantom Menace breakdown. I love doing that stuff. I want to get back into that. The problem is getting views, and I know this sounds horrible because, clickbait. But yeah, I need to figure out something that I can do that's fun and enjoyable that I can do and would get clicks because that's what it's all about, right? Multi-Gunman says, I've already decided that the true story of the Kurdistan movie is the worst movie of all time, even though it hasn't been made yet. Well,
New
that's true.
donation from Aravic.
Aravic, thank you, buddy. Hit the coffee link. So let me go to coffee and check out that cup o' coffee. Oops, helps if I type it in right. And by the way, if you want to be a regular contributor like the Patreon thing, I still obviously love it if you want to help out on Patreon. But if you'd rather do something that's not like Patreon had its little political stuff that people get worked up about or whatever, I don't think there's ever been anything about coffee. But one thing I do like about coffee is coffee doesn't take any of your money unless I allow them to in order to give me access to higher end features. So they either take nothing and I get the basic version, or they take 5%. That's 5%. That is, a sixth of what YouTube takes. And it's about a quarter of what I think, well, maybe half, third, I don't know, of what Patreon takes. So they're very generous with that. Most of them, literally 95% of what you donate actually goes to me. So, and so you can do that as a one-time thing if you want to, like a super chat, just like what Aravic just did, or you can actually do it as a subscription, just like the old days of Patreon. So. And it says, thank you so much. So again, this is the, and Mercer, I'm sorry, I see that you donated too 15 days ago, but I will talk about that. So, but hoping you're feeling better. Did you reach your goal of 50 rides? And yes, I did. Thank you very much. I hit 48 when I got home, and then thanks to my wife, I was able to crawl out of bed at 9 o'clock at night and go out and do 2 more. Let's see. Oh, I think I did read these. It was when we were talking about no argument for atheism, which I do want to talk about that one again sometime soon. Rabid Dogs in Heat was the name of my old band. You know what? That's a good band name. Let's see. Alex throwing some flags in there for some reason. I don't even know whose flag that is. So don't know if you're supporting or attacking or what. Thank you for doing these live streams, by the way. You do a very good job on them. Well, thank you, Multigun. I truly appreciate that more than you know. But at the same time, I got to be real. I got to figure out a way, because, hey, as much as it's hard to put it this without sounding like a complete dick. But then again, I kind of am a complete dick. But as much as I love every one of you that's here right now, generally on these live streams, we get 15 to 20 people. Maybe another 100 people will watch sporadically throughout the week afterwards. And as much as I appreciate every one of you, I need to figure out a formula for something that can grow and that can be sustainable on YouTube, because my goal is honestly to get the other channel to the point where it's making enough money to where I don't have to drive Uber every day. And Alex with another $4.99 says, do you remember what you did for your 40th birthday? I just think about my kid eating on time. Can't ever think about me. Can't not feel guilty. Can I remember what I did on my 40th birthday? That was such a long time ago. I was living in Portland. It would have been 2008. So my son was 8 years old. I mean, I can remember things like where I was working at the time as Comcast. I can remember where we were living at the time. But no, what we were doing on my birthday specifically. Oh, wait. Was that the one where she took me to... It might be the one where my wife took me to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. I think it was. And if you've never been... That's the one and only time I've ever been to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, a wonderful steak restaurant. This one was in downtown Portland, Oregon. But they're all over the country. And had a filet mignon that was like you could eat it with a spoon. It was so tender. I cannot recommend highly enough Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, at least from my experience 17 years ago. Let's see. There's Ervik in the chat 30 minutes ago saying hello. It was so good to see Ervik. Godson says, welcome back. Thank you, my friend. Unless you're talking to Ervik, in which case, screw you. Fat Albert versus Mr. Bean. Godson, come on. You know the drill. Nothing can defeat Mr. Bean except for God himself. So that's it. You can't, if you say Mr. Bean versus anything other than God himself, Mr. Bean wins. All right, so T says, good evening. How you doing, T? I'm so sorry I'm so far behind in the chat, but hopefully you're still here. Good to see you. I wish I'd come here sooner. It's okay, Godson. I tried to debate an atheist, but I got thrown off when he asked me V in the Bible verse. He asked, or what is he asking you for the verse of the Bible that supported with your argument? That could be tough sometimes because there are a lot of things I know off the top of my head, like the Bible says this, the Bible says this, the Bible says this. But then if you say, well, yeah, what chapter and verse? I'd have to go, well, let's take a look. And then I'll look it up. And I can usually look it up fairly quickly. But at the same time, if I'm having a debate and I don't have Google handy, to help me out, then that can be very awkward. Batman versus MMA fighter. Oh, come on. Dude. Poor MMA guy's he'll be lucky if he survives. And another super chat from Mr. Bogey. Thank you, buddy. You must be feeling very generous today. I got Kermit the Frog in my car. I got Kermit the Frog in my car. How many chapters? Huh? I mean, I get the first part. You have Kermit the Frog in your car. I assume because of your kids. But how many chapters is what? How many chapters are we into Exodus? We just did chapter 36. How many chapters before, I don't know, something else? I don't know what you're asking. I'm sorry. I wish I knew. I don't understand. Clowns versus baseball players. Oh, now you see, Godson, now you're thinking. Because, people would think at first, well, baseball players, clearly, they're professional athletes, usually pretty big guys. Now it says, watched Gladiator 2 on the plane. Bad history, question mark? Well, yeah, the history of, if you watch Gladiator or Gladiator 2, it's not, it's based on a real era of Rome, but it's fiction. And unlike The Chosen, which, by the way, watch the first episode of season 5, is it, of Chosen? It was really good. But most of the time, if you have a drama that just so happens to take place in a historical time, don't assume that anything is historically accurate, right? So, I would not try to learn any history from Gladiator or Gladiator 2. I enjoyed both movies. I think Gladiator was better, but I thought Gladiator 2 was a good movie. So back to your question, Godson, because this is where people make the mistake. They say clowns versus baseball players, and you think, well, baseball players clearly athletic. They have little spikes on the bottom of their shoes. They carry around deadly weapons like baseball bats. And it's a clear win, right? But each clown car can hold a virtually unlimited number of clowns. And the baseball bat is only good for so long before even the best baseball player will run out of his, fuel-injected abilities. And so eventually, I think the clowns actually overpower and win. It will be a long fight. Lots of squeaking and honking. But you also have to consider that while baseball players are huge and, big old buff athletes, they're the wussiest athletes in the history of athletics, except for maybe soccer players or football players, few people outside the United States, who act like if somebody walks within 10 feet of them that they just got punched in the face. Baseball players are almost that wussy. Al Bundy versus Dan Connor. I think that, well, okay, so Al Bundy will sit on his couch, stick his hand down his pants, say, well, we'll get to the fight in a minute, and then Dan Connor will just sit on him and kill him. Godson says, do you like to party? I am way too old to want to party. I want my number one spot. Oh, are you looking at the chat thing? I don't know how it's going. I see Thomas is in number 2 spot, though. Uber guys should be able to find it. Not sure if when I was looking at the map, yeah, I was an idiot. Let's see. Place near me called Grace Life Church bought a hotel tower. Wow, really? That's insane. Community will always meaner. Not sure what you mean. Ever been crabbing or know anyone that went crabbing? I've never personally been crabbing, but lots of people in my family were into that kind of thing. When I was a kid, I just didn't care about it. Was getting paid by the word. Oh, man. If I was getting paid by the word, I would make a fortune because I could sit there and talk and talk and talk, or write and write and write. Trash can lid versus fishing pole. Well, those are two inanimate objects, so they'll both just sit there on the ground, and neither of them will fight. Stan says, interesting, God demands a tent rather than a more permanent structure made entirely of brick or something. Wasn't intended to be portable. Yeah, it's because it was a portable. Keep in mind, this is a full-on grand tabernacle for the Holy of Holies, to hold the Ark of the Covenant, and the high priests will do all their worship services and all that there. And this was portable. And this was made like 4,000 years ago. Do you like lobster? It's not my favorite, but, if somebody bought me a lobster dinner, I wouldn't say no. Put it that way, I don't crave lobster ever, but I don't hate lobster either. I don't even know when the last time I had lobster is. By the way, I'm going to be wrapping it up soon because the wife just got home, but I just want to let you know. You said you didn't like your name Crawford. Yeah, and so I called myself Michael James on the playbill. Should have just changed it to Ford. Yeah, then I would inherit the entire Ford fortune. And then he asks again, do you like to party? I'm too old to like to party. Let's see. Hey, man. Let's see. I didn't even know, so it's different. What? All right. He was talking about Trump's. Well, he was talking about Trump's genitals, so I think Multi-Gunman had to give him a timeout. Oh, Alex, were you talking about Trump's genitals? Please don't do that kind of thing. Come on, buddy. I didn't see it if he did. Let's see. Well, you are supposed to respect authority. You absolutely are. And that's something we don't do well as Christians. And that's something that I've struggled with a little myself. I fully admit my faults. But that's one of the reasons that now when I drive, I'm very aware of what the speed limit is, and that is how fast I go. I do not speed. I don't sit there and go, well, come on, everybody's going, 75 in the 70 zone, so it's no big deal. It is a big deal. The Bible says to follow the law. And so that means that you should not intentionally violate the law. Sure, if you're driving down the freeway and then you look down at the speedometer and you realize you're going 3 miles over the speed limit, oh my God, you're just back it off a little bit. But if you're intentionally, knowingly driving over the speed limit, then that is a sin. But the thing is, what we do in America especially is we just say, oh, it's not a big deal. Jaywalking, oh, it's not a big deal, And then, I shoplifted a pack of gum. It's not a big deal. And we work our way up and up and up until somebody gets into some serious trouble. Thank you, Alex. With another $1.99, you are so kind. Says, pray for a legal way for YouTube to be free one day. If you're talking, here's the problem. I don't know the whole context of why you might have been talking about Trump's genitals, if that's what you're talking about here. But if you are, if it's because of the Trump's genitals thing, the honest truth is YouTube didn't do it. If I don't know if it's multi-gunman or whoever, somebody put you in a timeout, that was not YouTube. That was one of my moderators. And I say that is their job. You don't need to take the conversation too dark or in the wrong direction, if that makes sense. And Kelly Marie Tran's costume, she was just supposed to be a mechanic. Yes, but you know what? How many movies are there where there's a girl that's a mechanic, and when she comes out from under the car, she'll have grease on her forehead or whatever, but you know what? She's always wearing just like usually a tank top that's form-fitting. She might have pants that are slightly loose, but they accentuate her hips. And then if she has a jacket like what you saw Kelly Marie Tran, it'll be tied around her waist, not on her. I mean, you can make a mechanic look good. And same movie, her sister is in the opening sequence on the ships, and her sister don't look bad. It's not actually Kelly Marie Tran's sister, but Rose Tico's sister is on the bomber that destroys the dreadnought at the beginning. And she doesn't look that bad, right? So, yeah. Gorilla says, Kapla from Twister Central, got my beer, lawn chair, and ratchet straps ready. Excellent. Enjoy the tornadoes. Let's see. And going down. Thomas says, make sure you use those red slippers before going on the long, pointless walk. Huh? Let's see. Where were we? Company, Arabic. I'm trying to just do stuff that's addressed to me. Thomas says, Salty went to the Coliseum for gladiator fights for his 40th. To be fair, it's true. Oh, and thank you, Alex, with another $4.99. You are such a nice guy today. Says free speech shouldn't have mods. Offensive speech is more important because it is how new ideas can get expressed. All founding fathers were offensive. Well, let me address that for just a second, Alex, because you're right. Free speech shouldn't have mods, and you know what? Free speech, as protected in the First Amendment of the Constitution, doesn't have mods because you are not in a free and open platform right now. You are in a private discussion that happens to be me as a host. And on my shows, when I'm moderating or when I'm hosting, I trust my moderator to do the right thing. Which, by the way, do not time out Alex just because he's arguing with me, anybody. You know better. My moderators know that if somebody starts putting up really offensive content into the chat, I get very nervous about it because I don't want the channel to get shut down, right? And you want to do it anyway in the name of free speech because you don't give a crap about my channel. However, my moderators, fortunately, God love them, do care enough to make sure that that doesn't continue on. And you may not like that Google has rules, or Google, there are things that they don't like. You know, you're not supposed to talk about the leader of Germany from the 1940s. You're not supposed to talk about certain political hot topic issues like unaliving unborn children, stuff like that, right? I get that. And it can be annoying. But all that being said, YouTube belongs to Google. YouTube doesn't belong to Alex or me. If you want, go to Rumble, you know, where it's all rednecks all the time, right? If that's what you want, if you want right-wing commentary, then yeah, go to a site like Rumble, where it's just the opposite of YouTube, right? YouTube tends to have a leftist agenda by the people that run it. Rumble has a right-wing agenda for the people that run it. I'm not commenting on which is better or worse, but I'm on YouTube because I think it's a better platform to reach more people. Particularly as a Christian wanting to talk to people who are atheists, it makes more sense for me to be here than on Rumble, where everybody thinks that they know what Christianity is while they put, you know, country and guns ahead of Christ. And let's see. Hello there tonight, Salty Trucker. How are you doing today? I am doing okay, Robert. I'm still feeling the hit from last week, but a little better every day, hopefully to continue. Thank you. I'm thankful there's no boom today with what's going on between Israel and Iran. I have not been watching the news, so I didn't know there was something going on between Israel and Iran. What about dying on feet instead of living on knees? What about it? What about respect authority and follow the rules? What about do not repay evil for evil? Show me what Bible verse says you need to die on your feet rather than live on your knees. Show me a Bible verse that says that. I don't know of one. So seriously, put it in the chat. You don't have to super chat if you don't want. Just put it in the chat. If there is a Bible verse that supports what you just put in, I'll apologize, but I don't know. I don't think that exists. I think that that's just you putting your conservative agenda ahead of God, and that is the very definition of idolatry. But anyway, yeah, I had no idea that there was something going on between Israel and Iran. So yeah, I don't want more booming going on. A lot of historians think Gladiator 2 is really bad with history. Oh yeah. But I don't think they're trying to be historically accurate in that movie. Alex, that's the multi-gunman. Thomas says, like the opening battle would have happened 100 years before the movie takes place. Well, yeah. The battles, really, because the problem is that Gladiator was set so perfectly into Roman history. So Gladiator 2, it didn't make, I mean, honestly, not a lot about it from a story perspective even made sense. Like, why wasn't the son of the previous emperor, well, they didn't know he was actually, Maximus's son, but they thought that he was the son of the previous emperor. Why didn't he become emperor? It made no sense. Where did these twins come from? Let's see. Fat Albert versus Thanos. Well, Fat Albert would be charging. I'm going, hey, it's time to pay. And then Thanos will snap his fingers and turn Fat Albert to dust. All right, Alex, another one says, Jesus rioted against money changers for his views. Well, he didn't do it for views. And he didn't riot. Well, at least, let me see. What's the definition of riot? Because I don't want to say so. Let's see. Let's see. It's funny because I just put in riot into Google and it comes up with all these games and stuff like that. Okay, a violent disturbance of the peace by a crowd. So yeah, it was not a riot because Jesus wasn't doing it as a member of a like there weren't, the disciple. If the disciples had been flipping over the tables along with Jesus, you could have called it a riot. It was a disturbance. And he didn't do it for views. I don't know why you would, put it that way. That's kind of a weird way to put it. And even if you say for his viewers instead of views, he didn't. He did it because it was an offense against God. He explains it very, very clearly, in the Bible. So... And Thomas says that also. I'm not sure what that is. Dan Connors already can knock your butt to the ground. Found that out with Jackie's boy toy. Yeah, I remember that. I'm gonna laugh if I get third spot, says Alex. Well, so far I don't think you're not there. I don't know what the let's see. It looks like currently Street Preacher is number 1, Thomas is number 2, Multi Gunman is number 3. Alex, you are currently sitting at number 9 on the list. Let's see. Ben 10's Aliens versus Q? Really? Well, I would just have to say Q. I know from experience, a trash can lid will snap a fishing pole. Well, not on its own, though. You see, the problem is if you say trash can lid versus fishing pole, you got to put some people behind it and a circumstance. And it really depends. Like, if you have a trash can lid being wielded by Joe Average and a fishing pole being wielded by a samurai warrior, person with a fishing pole is going to seriously kick the other person's butt. And Alex, another super chat says, will this help me move up the totem pole? I don't know if super chats do or not. I'm still waiting for you to respond with a Bible verse that supports your, live on your feet or die on your feet instead of living on your knees. I show me that in the Bible anywhere, because honestly, Rome was occupying Israel, and everybody was expecting Jesus to show up and just liberate Israel from Rome, and he didn't. Instead, he said to pray for these people. And the disciples went on and said specifically to pray for the emperor. The emperor, a man who was in charge of a foreign invading army that was occupying their territory. Nowhere in there did they say, yes, we must die on our feet rather than to live on our knees. No, they lived on their knees, because on your knees you're praying. Sounds like the Life 360 app. It is. That way, the wife and I have that on our phones. It's kind of cool, actually. Someone with a fishing pole versus someone with a trash can lid. Okay, so same question, just rephrased. So the problem, and kind of what I described. Honestly, it would depend on the skill level of the individuals. Whoever rolls the higher dexterity wins. Because, yes, like I know that Gorilla said that a trash can lid is clearly stronger than a fishing pole. Like if you hit a trash can lid with a fishing pole, the fishing pole will probably break. However, if the person wielding like for example, the fishing pole has fishing line and a hook on the end, he's going to be deadly, right? So, and has range. And so it's going to depend on speed and agility, not necessarily, and so, because if the person with the trash can lid is fast enough to block any incoming swipes from the fishing pole, then all he has to do is get up and try to charge the guy. But the fishing pole guy, if he's fast enough, can really, can whip his legs, whip his face, whatever he wants to do, and can whip that around, especially if he has line with hooks on the end, can do some serious damage from a serious distance. Do you know the Lollipop Guild from the Wizard of Oz? Do I know them personally? No. But if they were to remake the Wizard of Oz today, of course, Peter Dinklage would be out there protesting the idea that anybody should actually play, any little people should play the Lilliputians, and then he would take the job himself, because that's how he is. And Multi-Gunman says, yes, I'm still here. Let's see. There's your free speech. Oh, Stan's talking about that other stuff. Let's see. I'm not going to read the stuff about Trump because that was nasty. Alex, can Odyssey or BitChute? Yeah, you can go to either of those. Like I said, Rumble is the most popular that I know. But yeah, if you want that kind of content, you can get it. Jesus got crucified for overturning the money changers. In the immortal words of Major Cura, don't judge people for what they say or what they think, only by what they do. Jesus was a rebel, not coward. Okay, so first of all, what Major Cura says has nothing to do with the Bible. And what you said is factually incorrect. We've talked about this before. It is extremely clear Jesus was crucified for the crime of blasphemy. It's in the Bible. It's in the trial itself. Yes, he was brought before them after he did the money-changing incident. And yes, that aggravated the Pharisees and Sadducees. However, they were already plotting against him because of his teachings. And when you go into the actual trial, we'll go there right now, because I know you don't believe me, and you probably won't believe me even after we look it up. Okay, so trying to see what the best place to go. Like I said, I'm horrible with remembering. I think that might be it. Let's go there. Matthew 26. And the Gospels are very consistent in this, so just to be clear. All right, and there's the Last Supper, Gethsemane, Jesus arrested. Okay, Jesus before the Sanhedrin. Okay, so this is the actual trial of Jesus himself, right? This is not, I'm not making stuff up. I'm not giving you my opinion. This is what the Bible itself, the holy of holy documents, the Word of God, this is what it actually says here. Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the teachers of the law, the elders, had assembled. But Peter followed him at a distance, right up to the courtyard of the high priest. He entered and sat down with the guards to see the outcome. Okay, let's skip forward a little bit because they're just talking about what happened outside. Let's see. Okay. I guess it was right there. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus. See, the chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus so they could put him to death. But they did not find any, though many false witnesses came forward. Now, if he was being tried specifically for the money-changing incident, he was guilty, right? And this line would not be there because he did it, and they would be able to find 150 witnesses to him doing it. Finally, two came forward and declared, "This fellow I am able to." Finally, two came forward and declared, "This fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days," which is not what he said, but that's the whole point. These are false witnesses. Then the high priest stood up and said to Jesus, "Are you not going to answer? What is the testimony that these men are bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent. The high priest said to him, "I charge you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." And then, "You have said so," Jesus replied, "but I say to all of you, from now on you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." So right there, Jesus said, "Hey, buddy, yeah, I'm the Messiah, and you're going to see me sitting at the right hand of God." That's what he's telling him. And so the high priest tore his clothes. And this is something, you'll see this in the Old Testament. People will tear their clothes as a sign of grieving because something so horrible that they can't even comprehend it just happened. So the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look, now you have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" "He is worthy of death," they answered. That they spit in his face and struck him with their fists. Others slapped him and said, "Prophesy to us, Messiah, who hit you?" He was charged, convicted, and executed for the crime of blasphemy. That's what the Bible says. You could say whatever you want about the money changers, but I'll go with what the Bible says over what Alex Bogey says. I love you, Alex. I don't hate you, but you're just wrong. All right, back to the chat, because I got to wrap it up. Let's see. Wow, really salty trigger since Friday. Israel and Iran have been attacking each other. Yeah, I have not seen any of that. I did not know. But then, I've been so out of it with all the crap with the, the MS stuff. I have not paid attention to any world events. Alex says, "I sometimes want to quit, but I know that I am helping to unplug people." No idea what you're talking about there. Israel launched preemptive missile and fighter attacks against Iran. Iran has been following suit with missile attacks themselves, seeming like World War III could just be around the corner. I hope not, but if it is, well, then the sooner we get to see God. And that's the attitude you should have, by the way. If you are a true believer, yes, World War III would be a bad thing. Don't want to see everybody die. But at the same time, well, I guess that would mean Judgment Day, right? And that's a good thing. Let's see. Looking at Fat Albert versus Hank Hill. Oh, there you go. I'll tell you what. So Fat Albert here's the problem. The minute Fat Albert showed up in Arlington, then Dale would immediately, his radar would go off because there's a large black man in the neighborhood that he doesn't know. And so Dale is going to warn Hank that somebody's coming, and it doesn't look good. And so then when Fat Albert pulls up at the Hill residence, Hank is already ready to go. And thanks to his dad, he's got plenty of munitions to deal with it. So Fat Albert comes charging up the sidewalk, and Hank just shoots him in the face. Oh! All right. Bitch shoot is like safety valve for people who can't can't compromise value. Whatever. Maybe the high priest didn't think it was big enough charge to make it a capital offense, so they trumped up some blasphemy. Maybe the high priest had an iPad in his pocket. It doesn't matter what, you know, if you want to say maybe this, maybe that, maybe this, maybe that, well, show me in the Bible where it supports that position. Because I'm going to go with Occam's razor here. Assuming for a second, you know, and if you're a Christian, you should believe this. Assuming that the Bible is a factual account of the time of Jesus, then if you want to suppose or theorize that something could have happened, like he was actually charged because of the money changing, then you need to bring the evidence. Where do you see chapters and verses that suggest that the reason that Jesus was arrested, the reason that Jesus was hated by the Sanhedrin and the Pharisees was because of the money changing incident? That the reason that he was executed was because of the money changing incident. That the blasphemy charges was just to trump up things in order to get it further along. So show me where it says that, and I will back off. However, back to your other thing, BitChute being a safety valve for people who can't compromise values, or BitChute is a place where people who have a right-wing ideology can spew their crap without having to worry about the algorithm shutting them down. Now, I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing. That simply is a fact. People, you know, if you have a right-wing ideology, you can go to BitChute and not worry about it. If you have a left-wing ideology, you can do the same thing here on YouTube. However, I am an anti-ideologue. And so I don't give a crap if you're right-wing or left-wing. I don't think ideologues... I think there's a good reason that the word ideologue sounds a whole lot like the word idiot. And it's also idolatry. And every time I see one of these right-wingers holding up a gun and talking about what a great Christian they are, I want to punch them in the face. I really do. Israel's been attacking Iran in broad daylight. Seems like Iran isn't doing too well. Well, Israel's got a superior military to just about everybody in the Middle East. And yes, the United States is a big part of the reason for that because we've supported them for so long. And it really makes me sick that nowadays people are saying, oh, you know, we need to help Palestine for some reason. But whatever. And Godson says, hey, it's Fat Albert. Let's see. Fat Albert versus Homer Simpson. Well, there's another interesting one because on the surface, you would think that Homer Simpson, might have a little bit of an edge. He's older, wiser. Obviously, he's physically in better shape than Fat Albert. However, Fat Albert, we got to talk combat skills here. Homer has 0. Fat Albert grew up on the mean streets. Right, so he may not be the greatest fighter in his hometown. I don't even know what his hometown is, but over at the junkyard, he may not be the biggest badass. Well, he's biggest, but he may not be a badass as far as fighting there. But the man can squeeze a radiator like it's an accordion. He's got some power behind there. And so since Homer doesn't have any obvious things like guns or anything like that to fight him off, Albert's going to get there and just crush him. And hey, donuts ain't the way. God says, yeah, number 1, hail to the kings. And let's see, and looks like, are we actually caught up? Oh my gosh, I'm caught up because then there's some stuff to Godson, to Alex, and stuff like, okay, more stuff. Fat Albert versus Peter Griffin. I don't watch Family Guy, so I can't really comment on Peter Griffin that much. But from what little I do know of Peter Griffin, I would say what probably happened is Fat Albert would come charging at him and he goes, well, this kind of reminds me of about the time that blue whale ran me over. And then we'd cut to, for some reason, a blue whale in a car driving over Peter or something. All right, so with that, we're going to wrap things up, guys. Thank you so much. Alex, buddy, thank you for the super chats. I know we disagree on a lot of stuff, and that's perfectly fine. But again, I'm if you're going to suggest that something that is not in the Bible is true, you got to present evidence. And just because the Orthodox Church puts church tradition up there with Scripture doesn't invalidate Scripture. And, so I think that, honestly, just making up excuses for the Pharisees doesn't make a lot of sense when the Bible explains it perfectly clearly.